Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's session. Today we'll go for Chemistry Paper 2, Variant 3 for May June 2025. Let's go. Question 1. Which two changes when applied at the same time to a fixed amount of gas cause the greatest increase in the volume of gas? They talk about pressure. So we know when pressure is inversely proportional, means when we press, we give more pressure, then the volume decrease. So to make the volume higher, then we must decrease pressure. So impossible B and D. And of course, here 20% is better. And then change in temperature, we know when temperature increase, it will collide more. So it will make the volume larger and larger. So that's why must increase temperature. The only answer is C. Number 2, solid G is heated until it melts. It is then left to cool to room temperature. The graph shows the cooling curve for G. Four statements about the cooling curve between X and Y are listed. First, it says the speed of molecules of G is decreases. This is correct if we talk about the cooling curve, but it's actually not very accurate for X and Y because we know when X and Y, they do not change in temperature, so the speed shouldn't have any changes. Number 2, the molecule of G become less closely packed. No, if we heat it, it will become less closely packed. But here is cooling, then it will from liquid become solid. It's actually become closer and closer. So definitely wrong for number 2. Number 3, thermal energy is released by the molecule of G to the surrounding. Yes, because of energy is releasing, that's why the temperature do not continue to drop because themselves form the bond. That's why heat release. And then number 4, it says G changes from solid to liquid, which is very wrong. It's from liquid to solid. So we only have these two options, and we definitely know 4 is confirmed wrong. 1 is not accurate for XY, but it's still correct for the cooling curve. That's why we choose B. It's the more logic answer. Number 3, which atom has twice as many neutrons as proton? So we need to list down how many number of neutron and proton. We know proton have 1, so neutron have 0 here. 1, 1, 1, 2. Here is 2, 2. So they says neutron is twice as many neutron as proton, means it's double from the proton, so it's actually C. For this and this, they have the same number of proton and neutron. Here have lesser. Number 4, what is the nuclear number of atom? Nuclear number is this, which is sum of proton and neutron in the nucleus. So it's B. Number 5, the diagram shows the position of element P and Q in the periodic table. We know P group 2, they want to remove 2 electrons to form +2. Q, they need to accept 1 electron to form -1. So 1P need 2Q to accept the 2 electrons. So it's C. Or you can write in this way, P, they want to remove 2 electrons, and Q, they need to accept 1 electron. That's why here we need to times 2. From here, we can know it's PQ2. Number 6, which statement about ionic compound is correct? It says giant lattice are formed when ionic compounds crystallize from solution. So when it's from solution, crystallize means it forms solid. It will form giant lattice, so A is correct. B, they says in all ionic compounds, the metal ion have fewer electrons than non-metal ion. It's not always correct. Let's say if your metal ion is different period. Let's say your metal ion is from period 4, but your non-metal ion is from period 2. So it's impossible period 4 have a lesser number of electrons compared to period 2. This is only correct when they are in the same period. C, in a giant lattice, ions of the same charge are closer. No, in ionic situation, it's like this. So opposite charge are close to each other, not the same charge. So same charge are closer is very wrong. D, when ionic compound melts, strong intermolecular forces are broken. Intermolecular forces is for covalent molecule. Ionic, we won't talk about molecule, so that's why it's wrong. Answer is A. Number 7, the equation for reaction between iron 3 chloride and sodium hydroxide is shown. What is the ionic equation for this reaction? So we can let everything that is in aqueous to put in ion form. FeOH3 is in solid form, that's why it cannot form ion. And then everything that is same on left and right, we can cancel them. So this can cut, this can cut. So we left Fe3 plus 3 hydroxide ion to form iron 3 oxides. So this is the ionic equation. Then number 8, a compound is analyzed and found to contain 85.7% of carbon and this percent of hydrogen only. What is empirical formula? To find empirical formula, we know we have C and H. First thing, we need to find the number of mole, and then we find the ratio. So the mole is just the mass. If they give you percentage, you can directly assume it is the mass of it, then divided by 12, get 7.14, and then hydrogen is 1. Then how to get the ratio? We divide both of the mole by the lesser number of mole, which is 7.14. So the C part will get 1, the H part will get 2. So the answer is CH2B. Question 9. Aqueous barium hydroxides react with dilute nitric acids. The products are aqueous barium nitride and water. In a titration, they give you this number of volume and concentration of aqueous barium hydroxide is required to neutralize this volume of dilute nitric acid. So what is the concentration of the nitric acid? So we need to know their relationship. We write the equation first. Barium nitride have NO3 2 because from here we can know barium, the charge is positive 2, and then we'll form H2O. So one barium with one barium, okay. Nitride, we need to have 2. So from here, we can know the ratio between them. Then we can find the number of mole of barium hydroxide because information are given. We can use the formula of N equals to concentration times volume divided by 1000, which is this formula. So get the number of mole of 0.0114. So after we know the mole of barium hydroxide is 0.0114, we know the relationship is 1 to 2, then we can know the number of mole of nitric acid is double of it, which is 0.0228. To find the concentration, we can continue use back this formula mv over 1000, and we don't know but volume, we know it is 20, then we can get answers. It is 1.14, so the answers is C. Then question number 10. Which particles are responsible for the transfer of charge in the external circuit during the electrolysis of molten lead to bromide? So the thing that passes through the external circuit is the electron, while the thing that passes in the fluid is the ion. 11. Two statements about hydrogen are listed. Hydrogen is used as fuel. Yes, it's used at hydrogen-oxygen fuel cell. When hydrogen burns in the air to form water, thermal energy is produced. Yes. Which conclusion about this statement is correct? Both statements are correct. None of them is wrong. And then it says, statement 2 explain 1. Statement 2 says, hydrogen burns, thermal energy is produced. So this explains why it is a fuel. And it says 2 does not explain 1. No, 2 actually explaining why it can act as a fuel. So answer is A. Question 12. Concentrated aqueous copper 2 chloride is electrolyzed using carbon electrode. What is formed at each electrode? Every time we do electrolysis, we write down cathode and anode first. Cathode will attract all the cation. So copper 2 is Cu2 plus. And in aqueous, it also have H plus and OH minus. And then chloride will have Cl minus. And in concentrated situation, anode is affected. Here they do not say cathode or anode. So you can use here to confirm. Positive electrode is the anode. Negative electrode is the cathode. Then we check. Concentration situation, we will choose group 7 to discharge. So confirm anode here will form chlorine. Cathode here will choose whichever less reactive, lower position in the electrochemical series. So it's copper. Answer is B. 13. Which row describe an exothermic reaction? So an exothermic is like this. So the enthalpy change is actually going down, so it's negative. And then the temperature of the surrounding, they reduce energy themselves. So the surrounding will accept their energy and the outside temperature will increase. 14. A reaction pathway diagram is shown. Which row shows the correct label of X and Y? and the type of the reaction take place. So this is not exo, this is endo, because the energy level of the product is higher. And then just now we already know from reactant to product is enthalpy change. And then from the reactant to the maximum of the energy is actually activation energy. So answer is B. 15. The rate of reaction between magnesium and dilute hydrochloric acid is increased by increasing the concentration of the acid. How does this affect the reacting particles? Concentration is increased. Will the collision rate increase? Yes, because the number of particles per unit volume increase. That's why it will increase. Proportion of particles with sufficient energy to react. Proportion, this thing will affect by two factors. First is the temperature. When temperature increase, they are having higher kinetic energy, so more collision will able to achieve activation energy. The second factor is the catalyst, because the catalyst will provide an alternative pathway that have lower activation energy. That's why also have higher proportion of particles that sufficient energy to react. 16. The reaction between aqueous iron ions and aqueous thiocyanate ions is reversible. Equation for the reaction is shown. At equilibrium, the concentration of Fe2 plus SCN negative and FeSCN2 negative are identical, and the mixture appears orange. When a few drops of aqueous thiocyanate ions, which is these, are added to the mixture, a new equilibrium is formed. So when the concentration of SCN negative is increased, the equilibrium disrupts. So to balance back, to make them back into equilibrium, the concentration of FeSCN2 negative will increase also. That's why the color will become more red. 17. The equation for reaction between iron 2 sulfate and bromine is shown, which identifies the oxidizing agent and reducing agent. So oxidizing agent themselves, they get reduced, which means the oxidation number is decreased. So let's see, Fe initially is 2 plus, Fe at last is 3 plus. So this is oxidized, means that it is reducing agent. And then bromine initially is a molecule, so 0 oxidation number of it, and then become here 1 negative for each bromide. So that's why bromine get reduced, so they are the oxidizing agent. So it's we just check based on the oxidation number. 18. The equation represents a redox reaction. What is the change in the oxidation number of ion in this reaction? So initially it is +3. How can we confirm this? Initially we don't know Fe, so we write 2x because we have 2 Fe, and then we confirm each O is -2. We can confirm X is 3 positive. Then at last the Fe become back atom, so it is 0. So the answer is just from +3 to 0. 19. Aqueous ammonia forms an equilibrium with water. In the equilibrium, which particle act as an acid and which particles act as an base? We know that acid, they will release hydrogen ion, while base is the one that accept the hydrogen ion. So NH3 actually receive the hydrogen ion, so that's why it acts as base. And then H2O release hydrogen ion and left OH. That's why H2O here act as acid that produce hydrogen ion. So answer is C. 20. Which row identifies an acidic oxide, basic oxides, and amphoteric oxides? So we know the group 1 and 2, it is basic oxides, because group 1 called alkaline metals. And then amphoteric oxides is always the aluminium 2 oxides. This is the amphoteric oxides that we learned. And then after this, from group 4, 5, 6, 7, all oxides are acidic. You can confirm here is correct. And then alkaline, the basic is group 1. That we can confirm is D. 21. A group 1 metal react with group 7 element? Which compound is formed when the group 1 metal of highest density react with group 7 that have lowest density? So we know no matter it's group 1 or group 7, the density will go higher and higher when going down the group. So group 1 highest density is potassium and group 7 lowest density is chloride. So that's why they will form potassium chloride. We just refer back to the periodic table if you do not remember which one is lower. 22. Element X is in the same group of periodic table as silicon. So silicon is here. An atom of element X has more proton than silicon atom. That is confirmed below silicon and confirmed not C. Aluminium is not in this group. Germanium, yes. Phosphorus is not in this group. So it's C. We just refer back periodic table, then you know the answer. 23. Which statement about element is group 8 is correct? Group 8 is noble gas. It's already achieved octet or duplet arrangement, so they are inert chemically. So let's see the description. 8, it says they've all formed diatomic molecules. No, diatomic molecules usually we describe for group 7 because they need to share one electron. Group 8, they don't share. That's why it's monoatomic. B, they all have 8 electrons in their outer electron shell. This is correct for most of them, but not for helium. Helium only have 2 because it's on the first shell. First shell can only occupy 2 electrons. C, they all react with oxygen. No, they are inert. They do not react with any of them. D, they all are gases at room temperature. Yes, because the attraction forces between atoms are very weak. 24. Which element is an transition element? Transition element is metal. And also it have color. So that's why if you see white, confirm it's not transition element. Then they have high density and high melting point. So this okay. This cannot because 328 as melting point is too low for transition element. So this is more logic. 25. 4 test tubes contain dilute hydrochloric acid. Each test tube has one piece of different metals added to it. The metals are copper, iron, magnesium, and zinc. So we can arrange them according to the reactivity series. Copper is here, iron is here, magnesium is here, and zinc is here. So the most reactive is magnesium, second is zinc, third is iron. The one that do not have reaction is copper. Here they ask for iron. Answer is A. Question 26. Brass is a mixture of copper and zinc. Which statement describes and explains the relative strength of brass? It is stronger because brass is an alloy that have different size atom. That's why the different size will block it from sliding through each other. So it says brass is stronger, correct? Because the layers of atom in brass cannot easily slice. Very good. B, they says brass is stronger because of the intermolecular forces. No, intermolecular forces is only for covalent bond. C and D, they say brass is weaker. Definitely wrong. 27. A sample of calcium carbonate is heated strongly. Substances U and V are formed. U is a white solid. V is a colorless gas. We need to know thermal decomposition. Calcium carbonate will form calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. Where we learn this, we learn it under extraction of pure iron. The formation of calcium oxides can added to silicon oxides to form slag. It will form the white solid of calcium oxides and carbon dioxide as the colorless gas. 28. A sample of water taken from a river contains harmful microbes. What is the source of harmful microbes in the river water? Sewage. Sewage is from toilet, from factories. So we know from toilets, it will generate the harmful bacteria. Is correct. For fertilizer, it will cause the algae bloom, it will cause the concentration of oxygen in the water decrease, but it's not producing the harmful microbes. For detergent and plastic, they are harmful, but they do not produce the harmful microbes. 29. Anhydrous copper 2 sulfate and anhydrous copper 2 chloride change color when water is added to them. Copper sulfate will change from white to blue, and then cobalt 2 chloride will change from blue to pink. Answer is C. 30. Which gas contributes to increase global warming? Always carbon dioxide. And other than this, we also have methane. So answer is B. 31. Which statement describes how greenhouse gases increase global warming? We know the greenhouse gases will always absorb the thermal energy and re-emit it to the Earth's surface. That's why if any heat from the Earth's surface want to release to the space, it actually trapped by these greenhouse gases. That's why it's just like a blanket, then it will cause a warming effect. So answer is C. 32. Nitrogen monoxide is produced in a car engine when petrol is burned. The gases from the car engine are passed through a catalytic converter. In the catalytic converter, the nitrogen monoxides react with carbon monoxides to form nitrogen and carbon dioxides. So we know nitrogen dioxides will reduce to nitrogen and carbon monoxides will oxidize to form carbon dioxides. A, they say carbon monoxide is oxidized. Yes, correct. B, carbon monoxide is produced by the complete combustion of petrol. No, it's because of the incomplete combustion. C, nitrogen monoxides formed by reaction of nitrogen and oxygen in the engine. Correct. D, nitrogen monoxide is reduced in the catalytic converter. Correct. Reduced to nitrogen. So answer is B. 33. The display formula of butene is shown. Which display formula represents structural isomers of butene? First of all, we can reject this because this is alkane, not alkene. Then the other two are okay, but we need to check whether it have 4 carbon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can confirm 1 and 3 are okay. So answer is C. 34. Which row describe the characteristic of members of the same homologous series? First, it says it's same functional group. Yes. And then they say it forms a trend in physical properties. Actually, yes, also, it can be the density, it can be the melting point, boiling point, all that will show a trend. And they say same physical properties is wrong because it shows a trend but not exactly the same. Same general formula, yes. Different chemical properties, no, because they have the same functional group, so must be similar chemical properties. And then differing from one number to the next by CH2, not CH3. So answer is A. 35. Compound W is a hydrocarbon that contains single bond only. So this is alkane. Then they ask you, which homologous series contain W? B, alkane. 36. Methane forms chloromethane in a photochemical reaction using UV light. Which statement about the reaction is correct? They say methane is mixed with hydrogen chloride gas. No, they're mixed with chlorine gas. And then C that says UV light prevent combustion. No, UV light is to provide the activation energy. So they have sufficient energy to break the bond between C and H and replace back C and Cl. Answer is D. 37. Which statement about polymer is correct? Nylon as a polyamide had amide bond is correct. And then it says nylon is polyester wrong because nylon is polyamide. And then it says propane can be polymerized by addition polymerization. No, addition is for alkene, not for propane, not for alkane. And then last it says the linkage in PET is carbon-carbon double bond. No, it's actually between COOH and NH2. So it's not double bond. 38. The step used to separate a mixture of soluble solid and insoluble solid are listed. A solution is made by adding the mixture to a suitable what? We want to make a solution, so we add them into solvent. Then the mixture is stirred and then poured through a filter funnel lined with filter paper. And then the insoluble solid is collected on the filter paper as a residue. The solution that collected as liquid is the filtrate. 39. Which item of apparatus are used to separate a mixture of liquid with different boiling point? So obviously it is fractional distillation. So answer is A. 40. In paper chromatography, what is the equation for the RF value? We know distance traveled by the solvent as the denominator and then the distance traveled by the substance is the numerator. So this is the end of today's session. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share my video. If you have any question, please feel free to comment here. See you in the next class. Bye-bye.